Good morning. Welcome to Peace House. This Saturday morning, there's a story for you, and we will read this story together and then practice some loving kindness meditation that will be specifically focused on beginners. So let me open my story. I hope you can read it here. This is the story of Samavati. So while residing at the Ghosita monastery near Kosambi, the Buddha uttered verses 21, 22, and 23 of the book Dhammapada with reference to Samavati, one of the chief queens of Udena, the king of Kosambi. So these three verses were uttered by the Buddha with regard to these two incidents that took place at the time of the Buddha, and they were later added to what we now call the Dhammapada. So let's continue reading. Samavati had 500 maids of honor staying with her at the palace. She also had a maid servant called Kujuttara. The maid had to buy flowers for Samavati from the florist Sumana every day. On one occasion, Kujuttara had the opportunity to listen to a religious discourse delivered by the Buddha at the home of Sumana, and she attained Sotapatti fruition. This is the first stage of realization in the Buddhist path. So Sota is the stream, Apatti is entering the stream. This symbolizes someone, instead of getting carried away with the current, they go against the stream, realizing truth one by one. Let me check if the mic is working. It is. She repeated the discourse of the Buddha to Samavati and the 500 maids of honor, and they also attained the stream enterer fruition. So now we have all of them, 500 of the maids who are stream winners, and with Samavati, it is 501. She listened to the discourse of the Buddha and repeated them to Samavati and her maids. In course of time, Kujuttara mastered the Tipitaka. Tipitaka literally means the three baskets, and the three baskets refer to the discourse of the Buddha's code of discipline, discourses of discipline, discourses of discourses, and the profound teachings, Abhidhamma, Vinaya, Sutta, Abhidhamma. And as the name suggests, Sama means someone peaceful. Samavati is someone who prefers peace. Samavati and her maids wished very much to see the Buddha and pay obeisance to him, but they were afraid the king might be displeased with them. So, making holes in the walls of their palace, they looked through them and paid obeisance to the Buddha every day as he was going to the houses for the three rich men, namely Ghosaka, Kukkuta, and Pavarya. So the Buddha visited these three houses when he dwelled uh, in Kosambi in Udena for alms. The Buddha received alms invited by these three men, Ghosaka, Kukkuta, and Pavarya. These names are also found in other Buddhist stories. Ghosaka is someone that we find with a very interesting story of using wisdom to preserve his wealth. Kukkuta, as the name suggests, uh, is of relating to a dog, and Pavarya is also a name found in Buddhist literature relating to other stories. And the first name, Ghosaka, is someone who acted like an alarm, waking up people using his voice, making a loud noise, saying, wake up, it's time for your work." He did that. And I'll bring up that story another time. At that time, King Udena had also another chief queen by the name of Māgandiyā. She was the daughter of Māgandiyā, a Brahmin. The Brahmin, seeing the Buddha one day, thought the Buddha was the only person who was worthy of his very beautiful daughter. So he hurriedly went off to fetch his wife and daughter and offered to give his daughter in marriage to the Buddha. Turning down his offer, the Buddha said, "Even after seeing Tanha, Arati, and Raga, the three daughters of the evil one, Mara, I felt no desire in me for sensual pleasures. After all, what is this which is full of urine and filth and which I don't like to touch even with my foot?" You can see the insult here. And although this sounds like an insult, it was not intended to be an angry insult. The Buddha's point of view here is to be seen in terms of meditative perspective. When the Buddha was told that someone is so beautiful or someone is having expectations to marry the Buddha, like here in this case of the daughter of the Brahmin Māgandiyā, she was so beautiful, and the Buddha was presented with his daughter, thinking that the Buddha was also equally beautiful, or more beautiful, so that she was suitable for the Buddha. But the Buddha looks at a human body with an eye of revulsion, with the truth in his mind, and focused his mind on seeing the repulsiveness of a body. So his definition of Māgandiya's body was that it is full of urine and filth, which he didn't like to touch even with his foot. You can see how upsetting this could be to this beautiful woman. She was infatuated with her own beauty. On hearing those words of the Buddha, both the Brahmin and his wife, however, attained anagami maggaphala, such a huge leap on their realization. So just contemplating on repulsiveness of body and hearing what the Buddha said about bodies, they both, the two Brahmin parents, went beyond desire and anger. They did not get angry of what the Buddha said, and they also went beyond attachment to human bodies or attachment to sensual pleasures. And that is cutting down two fetters, kamaraga and patiga. When they cut down 10 fetters to the full awakening, kamaraga and patiga appear to be the strongest, the most difficult ones, the two of the most difficult ones to cut down. But these two Brahmins, Brahmin wife, Brahmin husband, they listened to the teachings of the Buddha. They understood the false nature of sensual desire and aversion, ill will. Having, these two fetters became thin in their mind and they disappeared. They abandoned sensual desire, kama raga, and aversion, patiga. Upon abandoning them, they were able to leap to the other side. That is a pure state of being in their mind, that they became anagamis, non-returners. Non-returners. So non-returners means they don't return to the sensual world, whether it is in heaven or in human realm or anywhere else where there is sensual pleasures or where there is aversion, they will not return to the sensual world. So the Brahmin seeing the Buddha one day thought the Buddha was, we read that part. They entrusted their daughter to the care of her uncle and themselves joined the order. This is a common practice at the time of the Buddha. When someone realized that much truth, they abandoned their household lives and wealth, and they would choose to live a pure life, a life that is holy and pure. So they entrusted their daughter to her uncle, and they decided to abandon their wealth and status and join the Buddha in his monastic order. Eventually, they attained the final state of realization, that is arahantship. You can see the story telling three states, three stages of awakening. Earlier, they said stream winner. Now, secondly, they said once non-returner. Between stream winner and non-returner, there is a stage called once returner. Their minds are less attached to sensual desire and less prone to ill will. And that kind of person is called once returner. They return to the sensual world once, and they have very little to do with their realization. Once they realize that part, they jump to the other side, that is non-returner, which I described earlier. And now these two practiced more meditation and wisdom cultivation to be able to realize the arahantship. The Buddha knew from the beginning that the two Brahmin husband wives were destined to attain anagami fruition that very day. Hence his reply to the Brahmin in the above manner. However, so the Buddha's reply is justified here, that the Buddha directly knew from his eye, wisdom eye, the psychic eye, that these two, the couple were able to realize the teaching. So he spoke about the truth about bodies with a little bold manner. However, the daughter Māgandiyā became very bitter and sore, and she vowed to take revenge if and when an opportunity arose. She was not ready to realize the Dhamma. She was ready to take revenge. Later, her uncle presented Māgandiyā to King Udena because she was so beautiful, and she became one of his chief queens. Okay? Māgandiyā came to learn about the arrival of the Buddha in Kosambi and about how Samavati and her maids paid obeisance to him through holes in the walls of their living quarters. So she planned to take her revenge on the Buddha and to harm Samavati and her maids who were ardent devotees of the Buddha. Māgandiyā told the king that Samavati and her maids had made holes in the walls of their living quarters and that they had outside contacts and were disloyal to the king. This is like telling that Samavati was spying against the king through outside contacts with the palace, outside the palace. King Udena saw the holes in the walls, but when the truth was told, he did not get angry. So the king here also loves Samavati. But Māgandiyā wanted to take revenge from the Buddha, and she was targeting Samavati for that. But Māgandiyā kept on trying to make the king believe Samavati was not loyal to him and was trying to kill him. On one occasion, knowing that the king would be visiting Samavati within the next few days and that he would be taking along his lute, the, the lute with him, Māgandiyā inserted a snake into the lute and closed the hole with a bunch of flowers. Māgandiyā followed King Udena to Samavati's quarters after trying to stop him on the pretext that she had some presentiment and felt worried about his safety. At Samavati's palace, Māgandiyā removed the bunch of flowers from the hole of the lute. The snake came out hissing and coiled itself on the bed. When the king saw the snake, he believed Māgandiyā's words that Samavati was trying to kill him. The king was furious. He commanded Samavati to stand and all her ladies to line up behind her. Then he fitted his bow with an arrow dipped in poison and shot the arrow. But Samavati and her ladies bore no ill will toward the king, and through the power of goodwill the arrow turned back. Although an arrow shot by the king usually went even through a rock. Then the king realized the innocence of Samavati, and he gave her permission to invite the Buddha and his disciples to the palace for alms food and for delivering discourses. So in this part of the story, we see that goodwill, loving kindness is highlighted of Samavati. The king here allows the Buddha, allows Samavati to invite the Buddha to the palace. Māgandiyā, realizing that none of her plans had materialized, made a final, infallible plan. She sent a message to her uncle with full instructions to go to Samavati's palace and burn down the building with all the women inside. As the house was burning, Samavati and her maids of honor, numbering 500, kept on meditating. Thus, some of them attained Sakadagami fruition and the rest attained Anagami fruition. So Sakadagami, Saka means once, Agami means returning once to the sensual world, like I explained before. Now that too is ingrained to this story to teach the Buddhist path of realization. And now you can see the tension building in the palace because the king start to become suspicious and Samavati is proven innocent again and again and Magandhya is perhaps seen as the rival of Samavati and this news of course lands in the ears of the king. Now Magandhya has made a final really brutal plan. As the news of the fire spread, the king rushed to the scene. But it was too late. He suspected that it was done at the instigation of Māgandiyā, but he did not show that he was suspicious. Instead, he said, while Samavati was alive, I had been fearful and alert, thinking I might be harmed by her. Only now my mind is at peace. Who could have done this? It must have been done only by someone who loves me very dearly. Hearing this, Magandhya promptly admitted that it was she who had instructed her uncle to do it. Whereupon the king pretended to be very pleased with her and said that he would do her a great favor and honor all her relatives. So the relatives were sent for and they came gladly. On arrival at the palace, all of them, including Magandhya, were seized and burnt in the palace courtyard by the order of the king, because she was so harmful that she could do such harm to someone. She killed 500 maids and ordered her relatives to kill these 500. So these two brutal events took place in Kosambi. When the Buddha was told about these two incidents, he said that those who are mindful do not die. Appamado amata padam, the famous verse was uttered here at the time of the Buddha. But those who are negligent are as good as dead, even while living. Okay? The Buddha um, spoke in verse as follows: Mindful is the way to deathless. Appamado amata padam. Unmindful is the way to death. Pamado machu no padam. Those who are mindful do not die. Appamata namiyanti. Those who are not mindful are as if already dead. Ye pamatta yatamata. Fully comprehending this, the wise who are mindful rejoice in being the wise who are mindful rejoice in being mindful and find delight in the domain of the noble ones, Ariyas. The wise, constantly cultivating tranquility and insight, development practice, being ever mindful, and steadfastly striving, realizing Nibbana, which is free from bonds of yoga. Nibbana, the incomparable. The bonds of yoga are four in number: sense pleasures, existence, the bhava, wrong beliefs, ditthi, and ignorance of the Four Noble Truths, avijja. These are kind of yoga in the sense of union, bonding, keeping you bound to the cycle of birth and death. Okay, the little bit of story that is missing here is when Magandhya set Samavati and her maids alive on fire. They Samavati realized that they were not able to escape this fire, so they set their mind on radiating loving kindness, and all 500 of them radiated loving kindness and set their mind on the Dhamma that they had realized, the truth that they had realized, and they had some understanding of Dhamma already. And although they knew that they were dying from this brutal act of fire, setting fire to the palace, um, their minds were not harmed, that they set their mind in higher realms, and they were able to understand understand the Dhamma. Um, you can see in the story that um, they, the numbering 500, these maids, thus some of them attained Sakadagami fruition or some other fruitions. These are higher states of realizations, and you can see that the Buddhas and Buddha's teachings highlight the importance of keeping the mind safe when the uh, body can go through destruction, illness, different things, the mind remains unharmed. And therefore, mind can focus on, mind leaps to higher states, higher places, such as Brahma realms, pure abodes, pure places, where the mind can be reborn, where there is higher levels of happiness. Okay? That is the main teaching here. The body can go through many things, but when the mind is protected and cultivated and developed, mind jumps to higher levels upon perishing of the body. Okay, let's practice about 10 minutes of meditation. Sounded the bell 3 times. I know Zoom, people may not be able to hear it. Bring your mind to a resting position, also your body, your hands position, so very conveniently placed. Right palm on your left palm, or right hand on your right knee, left hand on your left knee. Relax your body, take a deep breath in, your shoulders all the way up, and you drop your shoulders. And make a wish in your mind, knowing that loving kindness means bringing up feelings of deep concern, a sense of well-being toward oneself and others. May I be well and happy. May I be peaceful and calm. May I be free from suffering. May no harm come to me. Now you can expand your thoughts of loving kindness toward your immediate family and those who have been very supportive to build your life. May my friends and relatives, spouse and children, teachers and relatives be well and happy. May my friends as well as enemies be well and happy. May they be free from anger and ill will. May they abandon anger and ill will. Now we can expand loving kindness until you encompass your mind with loving kindness, using bird eye view as a way of filling your mind and the world around you with loving kindness. May beings living near and far away be well and happy. May beings inhabiting space and earth be well and happy. May those animals living in this country and beyond be well and happy. May all beings in front of me, behind me, on my right and left, above and below, be well and happy. May all beings in this entire universe be well and happy. May all beings be free from hunger. May all beings be safe and healthy. Now, silently, you can radiate loving kindness for a minute until you hear the gong. Let's share merits. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. May they long protect you, guide you, and guard you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have a great weekend.